Chapter 11 Night Tours and the Restricted Area. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This sword is quite handy. Basil turned his round head, as if thinking about where John got a sword. He raised his wings and slapped Tom's drooling dog's mouth away, and Basil flew coldly to a place where Tom couldn't reach. John held the greatsword in both hands, the weapon of a medieval knight's armor, which seemed to reach almost his shoulder height. Maybe when he grows up, this sword is just ready. Grasping the hilt vigorously, John raised the great sword vigorously. This is a common knight's sword with a palm-width blade made of steel. The weight is very heavy, at least for the current John. This sword is a very good choice as a weight. Using the big sword as a weight, he started his own exercise holding the big sword. He found a rope to tie the sword body behind his back, and he did push-ups. Hard work will pay off. After John woke up the next day, his magic power increased by 10 points this time. Magic power, level 2, 20/500. Spells, Hallow hole opening, level 3, levitation curse, level 1, transformation curse, level 1. Skills, short weapon proficiency, level 7, great sword proficiency, level 3, hot weapon proficiency, level 1. Blessings, physical fitness, quick attack, precision, academic master, pilot, long distance running. His skills have changed, heavy weapon mastery and polearm mastery are gone, replaced by great sword mastery. This weapon meets the requirements for long handle and heavy duty. After carefully looking at the big sword, John suddenly realized, the mastery of the great sword combined with the proficiency of two weapons gave him a sense of familiarity. As soon as he got started, he performed a basic set of hacking, slashing and stabbing with the big sword, just like a knight who has studied for many years. His current level is such that a knight will exclaim when he sees him. Skills have similar levels to enchantments. Just getting started at level 1, it's the kind of posture that you can play when you just get started. Level 2 basic level, able to apply what you have learned. Level 3 is medium, and it can already be said to be a good player. There is no problem with a few dozen of the same volume. A level 4 professional, similar to a professional killer, is no longer just a few hits, but a real weapon. Level 5 teachers can apply and teach what they have learned well, and have their own unique insights. Level 6 master level, step out of your own style. In other words, in the words of the Celestial Dynasty, it is the pinnacle. A level 7 grandmaster is completely informal, returning to the basics. Even a short pencil can explode with the lethality of a dagger. John, who has reached level 7 in short weapon proficiency, can be called a master. He can use a pencil to stab down 3 flies in 1 second. The 2 weapon proficiency skills disappeared, and John didn't feel that the technology was forgotten. On the contrary, his application of weapons became more profound. Great sword mastery should be a synthesis of 2 weapon branches, so I don't feel unfamiliar. But he still couldn't help complaining, I'm a wizard, and it's useless if you give me this. Currently, for John, blessing is the first, magic power is the second, spells are the third, and weapon proficiency is the fourth. After practicing the transfiguration charm for a while, John went to class. After turning on the blessing of Shuaba, he can always absorb knowledge quickly. After revisiting the layout with Hermione in the library, at night he would start his own planning. The corridor on the 5th floor of Hogwarts at night, the portrait oil paintings on the wall are drowsy, and the medieval armor without weapons somehow took a stick as a weapon. Lumos. Hey! Turn off that damn light. Oh woo woo. The sudden light made the oil painters cry out in dissatisfaction. John walked down the corridor to the library on the 5th floor. The library closes at p.m. Now no one but night owls will be there. Thousands of books gather into thousands of bookshelves, and hundreds of narrow passages make this place a sea of books. In the depths is the restricted area, the destination of John's trip. Turning off the light on the wand, John came to the door where the restricted area was. A simple door bolt is just like a decoration, it only plays the role of preventing gentlemen but not villains. Unfortunately, Mr. John Wick is going to be a villain today, Pat. With a light pull, the door to the restricted area opened easily. John needs to be very careful. He doesn't have Harry's invisibility cloak, so he can only be careful. Fortunately, the body he exercised on weekdays played a big role. He stepped into the restricted area without making a sound, and he saw many books that were sealed away. These banned books are not impossible to learn, but because they are too dangerous to be sealed in the forbidden book area, there are also some black magic books that are not easy for students to learn, but it is not impossible to obtain books in the restricted area through formal methods, if you can get the professor's note. You can go to the restricted section to borrow it, John thought about it for a while. Every time he saw the dean who could almost kill flies with his eyebrows, he felt that it was more reliable to do it himself. After confirming that no one was there, John lit up his wand. He scoured the restricted section looking for the one he wanted. He came here to find the book with the disillusionment spell. It's just that it still takes some time in this ocean of books. A powerful potion. Seeing a book, John pulled it out curiously to check it out. This is a book about potion science, which records many kinds of potions. Among them are veritaserum and compound potions. After 2 glances, John put the book back. While it's amazing how a polypharmaceutical can transform into another person, it's a little nauseating to get hair from someone else's body. Looking further, he saw a black and silver book. After touching it, John thought about it and still didn't open it. There may be some black magic curses in these books. You should find what you want. After a round of searching, he finally found the record about the disillusionment curse. After going through revealing the secrets of cutting-edge black magic, he found advanced charms, which not only contain the disillusionment curse, but also advanced spells such as apparition. Closing the book, John prepares to leave. When he was about to leave the restricted area, he stopped, turning his head to look at the strange book. He was still curious, so he tentatively took out the book and opened it curiously. What? John covered his ears and hurriedly closed the book, but it was too late. The sound from here startled Filch. Filch, who was patrolling outside to catch the little wizard, ran quickly towards the library. He is obviously a squib, but he has a strong physique that has been cleaned for many years. I found you. Filch held the night light, sniffing like a hound with his hooked nose. Cat meowing came from a distant bookshelf, and Filch's face showed excitement. He and Mrs. Norris had a tacit understanding and ran towards the bookshelf. Filch left the library door with his front foot, and John walked out from the bookshelf beside him with his back foot and left in a grand manner. As he left, he gave a thumbs up to Mrs. Norris, who was licking her hair gracefully on the bookshelf. Sure enough, no cat food is free, and the coordination of this hand gesture is really perfect. After returning to the dormitory, John couldn't wait to start practicing, so much so that when I woke up the next day, my eyes were like pandas. After practicing for 3 days, he finally saw the level 1 pattern of the disillusionment curse. Hard work will pay off. The next day, John saw 6 long-eared owls flying towards Harry Potter with a slender package in the auditorium. And by the way, let Harry's uneaten bacon touch the floor intimately. Ding, Minerva McGonagall didn't want to talk to you and threw a Nimbus 2000 at you. Mr. Savior is about to start his Quidditch campaign. Also arriving with Nimbus 2000 is a letter from an older catgirl telling him to go to Quidditch training. Although Harry didn't know much about it, he had an almost instinctive talent for flying. Unable to hide his joy, he shared the letter with Ron. Ron was envious. The best broomstick he'd ever had was the one his brother Charlie Weasley used in Quidditch. Compared to this one, that one is rubbish. Harry and Ron hurried out of the Great Hall, ready to unpack and have a look before the first class. There's love around the corner. The Savior meets the evil Slytherin, the Overlord Malfoy, as always, flirted with, provoking his lifelong enemy. John ate his bacon pie and just glanced at it casually. Compared with the grievances between Slytherin and Gryffindor, he cared more about the raw texture of the bacon pie, and he suspected that there were uncooked stones inside. Well, how long do you have to fight with them? Regretfully putting down the bacon pie. Opposite John was Hermione, who had already peeked at Harry and the others 3 times. Hermione said angrily, "Not until they apologize to me. It will probably take a while." John felt that Harry and Ron probably had forgotten about Hermione. Neville was struggling with his reddened memory ball again, so John had to remind him that he'd better change into a pair of pants for charms, since this wasn't a slumber party after all. Chapter 12 Twins and Quidditch. You are listening at novelfull.audio. John got extra points from Professor Flitwick in the class, successfully saving some of the decline for the bottom of the funnel in Slytherin. After a day of lessons, John moved around the castle. Every time he passed the huge tapestry, he would walk back and forth 3 times, thinking silently that he needed a room for training. Such behavior is very strange, but it should be familiar to anyone who has read the Harry Potter novel. Yes, he was looking for the room of requirement, as said before. He doesn't remember much. he remembered that the entrance to the room of requirement was across from a huge tapestry, but he couldn't remember exactly what the place and the tapestry looked like. Fortunately, there are not many huge tapestry in Hogwarts. After passing through the tapestry where the troll beat Barnaba with a stick on the 8th floor for the 3rd time, a wooden door appeared opposite the tapestry. John pushed open the door and went in. Inside was a training ground for spells. A human-shaped target looked old, and John frowned when he walked in. It was so dusty inside it looked like it hadn't been cleaned in decades. Scourgify. Using the newly learned magic spell to clean the dust in the room, John finally stretched his brows. The old humanoid target was still solid, and there was a dull-colored training wooden sword in the corner. Judging from his size, his master should be very strong. John weighed it in his hands. It was very heavy, heavier than a sword in medieval armor. With the strength of John now, he can't shake it, but in the future he can practice spells here. All the equipment inside can also be used for exercise. It is simply serve multiple purposes. There are no offensive spells yet, and John can only do some simple training. With his unremitting efforts to level up, the illusion spell was upgraded to level 2. Disillusionment. With a wave of the wand, a layer of liquid-like substance fell on the body and gradually enveloped the whole body. He raised his hand and looked, as if it had become like a ball of water. If you don't look carefully, you can't tell that someone is here, but if you are close enough, you can still see that it is slightly different from the surroundings. It's like optical camouflage. Using his own knowledge to explain this phenomenon, John nodded in satisfaction. With the help of the illusion spell, his next night tour task will be more handy. He left the room of requirement after training. Now that it was bedtime, he headed to the trophy room to clean up the trophies. Taking out the cat strips from his pocket as a reward for his last help, John brushed Mrs. Norris's tangled hair. "Are you fat?" Lifting Mrs. Norris, John felt a lot fatter. I didn't know how Filch fed the cat before, so that Mrs. Norris could suffer from malnutrition. I remember that Mrs. Norris often licks her hair, and John also thoughtfully brought a bottle of hair cream. When he left, he saw that Filch, who was making a bad face, was even more ugly, and he still smelled like a broken durian, probably the work of the Weasley twins. Not long after walking out of the trophy showroom, John encountered 2 groups of furtive red hair, with exactly the same appearance and the smirk hanging on the face. You don't need to think about it to know that they are the famous Weasley twins. John rolled his eyes, cast a disillusionment spell on himself, followed them secretly, and listened to their conversation. "George, we can throw the big shit in there." "Wait, Fred, John. 6. 1 Wick is still in the trophy room. I don't want to involve John Wick." "Okay, we can throw it into Filch's room, what do you think?" "Great George, it's time for this annoying guy to suffer." George Weasley, Fred Weasley, the Weasley twins, the 2 most troublesome guys at Hogwarts. It wasn't a day or 2 since they had grudges with Filch. As the 2 people who liked pranks the most, they were the natural opposites to Filch the janitor. For that, the Weasley twins were going to give Filch a hard time. Perhaps 2 large dung eggs sent into the room would be a nice gift. John followed behind them, feeling shuddering listening to the discussion between the 2, thankful that he was popular. If he had been hit by a big dung egg from Weasley just now, he might not be enough to take 10 baths. The Weasley twins didn't notice John, and upon reaching the room, they threw 2 large dung eggs into it. The stench wafting from inside made John mourn for Filch. Where should this unlucky guy go to sleep tonight? The smell made the Weasley twins unbearable, and ran out after throwing it away. John stood at the door and looked inside. There are many things in Filch's office. One of the drawers is marked confiscated, highly dangerous, and it contains a lot of contraband. Before John could take a closer look, he heard Filch's furious hopping. The Weasley twins ran faster, and a piece of parchment fell when they passed John. John picked it up and saw that the white parchment reminded him of something. The Marauder's map. It's not time to check yet. John has already heard Mrs. Norris meowing. Under the disillusionment charm, he ran towards the opposite position of the Weasley twins. Filch jumped into a rage and chased after the Weasley twins. After returning to the dormitory, John felt a smell of big shit on his body. Taking out the parchment, he took out his wand. "I solemnly swear that I have no good intentions." That the clean white parchment began to change, ink lines extending like ink and wash, converging into a line of words on the parchment. Moonface, Padfoot, Prongs, Wormtail. John remembered that one of the four names seemed to be Harry's father. Open the parchment. Inside is a map with footprint patterns showing Hogwarts activity personnel. Filch is still turning the corner. If he turns the corner, he can see the Weasley twins there. The map record is very comprehensive, even the number of secret passages in Hogwarts is recorded in it, and even the names are displayed. It can be said that obtaining this map means controlling all the secret passages in Hogwarts. In the end, Filch didn't turn the corner, but turned around and headed in the opposite direction. The Weasley twins also started moving towards the Gryffindor lounge. Taking a shortcut on the 5th floor, John stared at the map and spotted a name, Quirrell. Professor Quirrell is outside at night, and John wants to see if he can find the man who can't mention the name. Unfortunately, he failed. It seems that not all Marauders' maps can be displayed. John was a little disappointed, but fortunately, such cases were rare. Watching with relish the headmaster of his bat approaching a pair of poor nighttime lovers, John estimated that a lot of points would be deducted for this pair of lovers. The prank is over. Taking out his wand and tapping the parchment to close the Marauders' map, John stuffed the map under his pillow. In the future, you don't have to worry about being caught when you travel at night. This is good news, a good news and a bad news. The good news is that John has a new pastime activity besides working out in class. Watching the savior Harry fly fancy on the Quidditch pitch. I have to say that it is rare for a son to inherit his father's career. That is, why does a myopic eye with glasses have such strong dynamic vision? The golden snitch was originally small, only the size of a walnut, plus extreme speed and a huge three-dimensional field. John was a little dazzled, but Harry was always able to find it and lock it, but this does not prevent John from watching it with gusto. After all, this is the black history of the training of the savior. After Harry swooped into the audience for the 3rd time, Hermione's voice rang in John's ear. In 1269, Barbara Bragg, the head of the Wizarding Council, introduced the Golden Snidget in the Quidditch game, and offered a reward of 150 galleons as a reward for catching the Golden Snidget. Later, it became a habit to release the Golden Snidget in the Quidditch game. The team that arrives at Golden Snidget can get 150 reward points. Due to the popularity of hunting Golden Snidgets, the number of Golden Snidgets decreased sharply, and Golden Snitches replaced Golden Snidgets later. Hermione was showing off her knowledge. Much to John's frustration, she seemed to come to regard John as an adversary. As a true academic master, Hermione showed unwillingness to admit defeat to John, who could get more points than herself in class. This is bad news. At least before John is really a top student, the news is too bad. It's as if someone has a whip behind you, and any time you slow down you'll get a whip. Chapter 13 School, Hospital and Training. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ding, trigger the challenge task, continuously get more scores than Hermione Granger within one school year, and get the blessing, Shuabat 2.0. Shuabat 2.0. You can gain 4 hours a day to increase your learning efficiency. Triggered the mission. John was in a trance, and suddenly a touch of gold came into the corner of his eyes, and then a broomstick passed by. He didn't have time to think. A bludger flew towards this side. Raising his hand subconsciously to grab the flying bludger, John's arm clicked as if it was dislocated. God, John, are you okay? Hermione's scream sounded belatedly. The Gryffindor Quidditch players who were still training also realized that something had happened, and the Weasley twins flew over first. The bludger kept trying to break free in John's hands, but the arm that didn't look strong was able to hold it firmly. Even Wood couldn't help but marvel at this scene. You caught a bludger with your bare hands. You are such a natural hitter. George, John Wick, if only you were Gryffindor. Fred, so we can abdicate. The twins sang together. Angelina Johnson, with long black hair and a twisted ponytail, interrupted the teasing of the two. You guys shut up, his hand seems to be broken. Harry hurried down from the broomstick. He had been chased by the bludger. He was so focused on the golden snitch that he didn't notice that the two of them were here, and when he realized that something had happened to John, Harry was very guilty, and said with self-reproach, "It's all my fault." John's face turned pale. Even if he was dislocated, he would feel uncomfortable. Can you stop chatting and take this thing away first? The bludger was heading towards Hermione just now. If he let go, Hermione's face would have already kissed the bludger. Wood was in a hurry to tie up the bludger. This thing even broke the batting bat under the rapid speed. The bludger was tied up, and John was relieved. With his lips turning pale, he changed his posture to half-kneeling, the dislocated hand was propped on the ground, and under the gaze of Hermione's pale and worried eyes, he pushed his arm back hard. Click. Oh. God, this must hurt. John, you can go to the school hospital. The lion cubs were all taken aback, and even the Weasley twins showed admiration. Why is there such a big gap between Slytherins? That kid Malfoy had to go to the school hospital howling for a long time even if his fingers were broken. Madame Pomfrey tried to throw Malfoy out more than once. A group of lion cubs surrounded John, who thought it was Gryffindor beating Slytherin together. Hermione mixed in the crowd and couldn't help asking worriedly, John, are you okay? Still not exercising enough. John paused, giving Hermione a smile, looking at Harry who was also worried. He grinned and said, It's not your fault, Harry. I think we should go to the school hospital. Harry stubbornly wanted to take John to the school hospital. John, who couldn't resist them, had to be carried over, and those who didn't know along the way thought something was wrong with him. Not long after lying in the school hospital, he was kicked out by Madame Pomfrey. Look, I said it's all right. Shrugging, John looked relaxed. Harry was finally relieved now, and said to Hermione, Sorry Hermione, it's because I flew too low. Don't blame you Harry, no one can predict the trajectory of the golden snitch. After this incident, the original Cold War between Harry and Hermione was finally eased. Now among the three little ones, only Ron is still in the Cold War. Harry felt that Hermione was a very nice person, not as they thought, and he should help them reconcile, study during the day and train at night. After John was hit once, he deeply understood the importance of physical fitness for a wizard. After the last night tour, there was a regular visitor in the restricted area. John, who had cast the disillusionment charm, took out advanced charms in the restricted area, and took the shortcut on the 5th floor to the front of the room of requirement. I need a place to train. After walking back and forth in front of the tapestry 3 times, a wooden door appeared on the blank wall. Inside is the same training room as last time. This time John brought the big sword of medieval armor. I'm almost used to the weight of this sword. Holding the big sword, John changed his training method. I saw that in the training room flickering with candlelight, the sword light seemed to be dotted with stars. The big sword waved a silver light and moved towards the human target. The moment the humanoid target came into contact, it was disrupted and shattered. The target on this side shattered, and John shifted the target to the next one, and so on. When the last target is broken, all the target fragments are restored. These targets have been cast with a restoration charm, and if they are all broken, they will return to their original state. It saves John more time. Ding, get blessing, sword dance, sword dance, use sword weapons to increase viewing and destructiveness. His hands were a little sore. John put down the big sword. With his current body, after a series of high-load exercises, he can obviously feel the increase in magic power. Gained 15 magic points in just one night. Persevere, and it won't take many days to upgrade again. After training, John did not relax, and he started the second round of spell training. Under the effort of almost squeezing himself, the spell has been significantly improved. The most obvious one is the newly learned spell Disillusionment. He needs to use the illusion spell every night for night travel, and after October comes, the illusion spell has been upgraded to level 10, magic power, level 2, 450/500. 3423211, skills, short weapon proficiency, level 7, great sword proficiency, level 4, hot weapon proficiency, level 1, blessings, physical fitness, quick attack, precision, academic master, pilot, long distance running, sword dance. Thanks to the existence of the restricted section, John has learned a lot of magic. He saw the Fiendfire curse in the restricted area, but after thinking about it, even among black arts, it was extremely difficult to control, so he gave up his plan to study it in the 1st grade. He remembers what seemed like an idiot using Fiend Flame in the room of requirement, which ended up setting the entire room of requirement on fire. I don't want to repeat the same mistakes. After starting the schoolmaster time, he can learn more things. Monday, Transfiguration class. Well done Wick, 5 points for Slytherin. Today's lesson is to turn animals into goblets. On John's desk is Tom. The cute and big-eyed Tom stuck out his tongue fawningly, and John took out his wand and nodded at him. Veriverto. Tom turned into a goblet under his gaze. Professor McGonagall was amazed when he saw it. Adding to Slytherin's no longer barren point funnel, Hermione was a little depressed, and she seemed to be getting farther and farther away from John. Only John himself knew that he was a cheating liver monster. In order to have enough time for night travel and training, he stayed up all night and made a new achievement: sleepless. You only need to sleep for 2 hours a day to satisfy the energy of the whole day. With this blessing, he finally avoided dozing off while staring at Snape's gloomy gaze. I just heard that Snape seemed to have visited the school hospital a few times, hoping that Madame Pomfrey would not continue to use euphoria to some students as a stimulant. Well, this student should not be connoting John. Room of requirement. John swung his big sword, and under the candlelight, a piece of silver light shattered the target in front of him, and he swung his wand in his left hand towards the target at 7 o'clock. Reducto. White light flew from the chopstick-like tip of the wand and landed on the target, which exploded into a pile of crumbs. Compared with just blasting a little bit at the beginning, it is already a qualitative improvement. After training, John rested for a while and prepared to leave. Tomorrow is the eve of Halloween, so I have to keep myself in good shape. The day after tomorrow, my 2-month trophy room punishment will also end. Slytherin's lounge was underground, and he needed to walk from the 8th floor back to the 1st floor. Fortunately, Hogwarts had no shortage of shortcuts. When he reached the corridor on the 1st floor, he saw Barrow the Bloody Man. The taciturn ghost of Slytherin seemed to be waiting for him. Chapter 14: The Great Sword and the Ghost. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Mr. Barrow. John lifted the disillusionment charm due to his proximity to the Slytherin lounge. However, John was not embarrassed by being caught traveling at night, but was curious about what the Bloody Barrow was doing here. Staring at the night outside, the Blood Man Barrow had thoughts in his eyes. It's you, the Slytherin who slipped out. The Bloody Baron was a terrifying ghost, with hollow eyes, a thin face, and silvery blood stains on his robes. Peeves was not afraid of anything but this ghost, to the point where he trembled when he heard its name. John could see that the blood on Barrow the Bloody Man represented a past event. Although he was curious, he didn't mean to reveal other people's scars. It seemed that the Bloody Barrow knew that someone often sneaked out, but he didn't know who it was. John nodded, and the Bloody Barrow looked him up and down, with a strange expression on his face. After all, anyone who saw a wizard with a big sword on his back would be surprised. The Bloody Barrow asked, "What are you going out for?" "Practice. I think you need to work harder to be worthy of Slytherin." There are never too many nice words. John's words made the Blood Man Barrow shake his head. You are very hard-working, but I think you are more like a Gryffindor. He didn't finish his sentence. It was too similar. When the Blood Man Barrow was alive, he was in the period of the Big Four. He killed Helena Ravenclaw due to his unsuccessful pursuit of Rowena Ravenclaw's daughter Helena Ravenclaw. Sad and remorseful, he chose to commit suicide to end himself, so he met Godric Gryffindor, the founder of Gryffindor, who was also obsessed with swordsmanship and fighting. For this reason, he specially asked the goblin to forge a silver sword. It's just that the silver sword produced was too perfect, which made the goblin greedy, and Godric Gryffindor had to fight the goblin. The result is obvious. Although the goblins have always claimed that Gryffindor stole their swords, none of the goblins dared to come to Hogwarts to claim it back. Compared to Salazar Slytherin, John is exactly what Godric Gryffindor looked like when he was young. Merlin's beard. Who knows if the old hat is broken, and it will send a replica of Gryffindor to Slytherin. I'm here to tell you that it's dangerous to have other things at night, so be careful. Withdrawing his thoughts, the Blood Man Barrow hasn't said so many words for a long time. John thought about it and thought of Quirrell. Judging from the Marauder's map, Quirrell often leaves Hogwarts. Blood Man Barrow is the most special one among the ghosts of the 4 courtyards. He has the ability of invisibility. It should have discovered something, so it came to warn. I know Mr. Barrow, and I'll be careful. He didn't refuse the ghost's kindness, and John couldn't wait to take out the Marauder's map when he returned to the room. I solemnly swear that I have no good intentions. A map of Hogwarts appeared on the parchment, and John saw Quirrell's name. Except for professors like Snape who caught students, Quirrell's name bypassed the patrolling professor and Filch, and left towards the outside of Hogwarts Castle. Where is he going? John was puzzled. Quirrell left the castle in the middle of the night. Where was he going? It's a pity that the location shown on the map is limited to Hogwarts, and further places such as the Forbidden Forest cannot be displayed. Is it going to the Forbidden Forest? After thinking about it, John felt that if he hadn't left Hogwarts, there would be only one direction for Quirrell, and that was the Forbidden Forest. There are many magical creatures in the Forbidden Forest, including werewolves and centaurs, and pure unicorns. The Bloody Baron said it was dangerous. Did he mean Voldemort? Thinking of Voldemort, John's sense of crisis strengthened. Although this second-generation Dark Lord did not have the same influence as the first-generation Dark Lord to spread throughout Europe, Voldemort has no lower limit. For his own benefit, Voldemort has never said that he is polite, righteous and shameless. Even if he casts the death curse on a baby, he will not feel the slightest shame, as long as Voldemort has the bearing of a generation of Dark Lords. John will not be afraid at Hogwarts. No, we still need to strengthen. Putting his big ears over Tom's eyes, John didn't want to pin his hopes on vague prophecies. The ghost knows whether the prophecy is true or not. Besides, Hogwarts is not without people dying. October tennis tea, charms. The sweetness of roasted pumpkin filled the hallway, and the class was listening in pairs to Professor Flitwick's gist of the levitation charm. John could clearly see Goyle and Crabbe's Adam's apple swallowing, and Malfoy was in his group, so it can be said that the road to enemies is narrow. This made Malfoy tense all the time, as if he was afraid that John would suddenly pick up his wand and stick it into his eyeball. Professor Flitwick stood on a makeshift booster chair made of books, pointing to the students in a high-pitched voice. Okay, don't forget that subtle wrist movement we've been training. Swipe, shake, remember, waving and shaking, reciting the spell is also very important. Don't forget Wizard Beluffio. As the head of Ravenclaw and the Professor of Charms, Professor Flitwick is undoubtedly very good. He can't wait to tear apart a spell and crumble it up and feed it to the students bit by bit. He is a very good teacher. I heard that the young Professor Flitwick was once the champion of the duel competition, and he is quite capable. After Professor Flitwick made the main points, the students began to practice. Wingardium Leviosa. Malfoy's wand was almost poking John in the face, and the feathers on the table remained unmoved, leaving John speechless. He comforted softly and patiently, Malfoy, if you poke my hand again, I'll put my wand in your ear. The threatening words made Malfoy's body stiff, but the pride of the pure-blood nobleman did not allow him to bow his head to the mudblood, and he said dissatisfiedly, you do what you want. Sorry, I really can. John shrugged, gracefully took out his wand, and pointed it at the feather on the table, with a flick of the wrist. Wingardium Leviosa, Wingardium Leviosa. Under everyone's gaze, the feather flew up, guided by John's wand. The feather flew towards Professor Flitwick, and landed in the professor's hand precisely and gently. Marvelous! Flitwick clapped his hands excitedly, and his voice became even thinner. Look at Mr. Wick's elegant and perfect success. 10 points for Slytherin. Hermione, who was already confident, had already practiced the position of Gryffindor, so for this floating spell, she is completely sure to complete it. It's just that she, who was assigned to Ron, couldn't bear Ron's savage waving. And when she was about to release the correct spell, John got ahead of her, looking at the precisely controlled feathers. Hermione felt a little depressed, and she happened to have a perfect object to vent these emotions, so Ron was unfortunately in a bad mood under Hermione's emotional teaching. After class, in the crowded corridor, Ron complained to Harry, no wonder everyone can't stand her, she's just a nightmare. This was heard by Hermione, and she was even more aggrieved. She was obviously helping Ron, but she was rejected. Sad, she didn't wait for John, she wanted to find a place to cry. Weaving through the crowd, she bumped into Harry. Harry found her crying, and now that he had changed his mind about Hermione, he thought Ron had gone too far. I think she heard you. Ron also saw Hermione's sad expression, and the little boy's self-esteem made him insist, so what, she must have noticed, she doesn't have any friends. Ron, you shouldn't have said that. Harry said to Ron seriously. All the good friends spoke, so Ron had to bow his head and leave in a dull voice, and said in a low voice, well, actually, she has friends, and John is. Chapter 15 Hallows Eve Banquet and Trolls. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Harry wanted to take Ron to apologize to Hermione, but Hermione didn't show up until the end of the next class. Not seeing Hermione all afternoon, Harry had to put the matter aside. while heading to the Great Hall for a Halloween dinner, the two overheard Hermione's roommate, Parvati Patil, and her friend talking about Hermione crying in the ladies' room. This made Ron uncomfortable, especially with Harry prodding him, thinking he might actually be wrong. "Let's apologize to her later." Ron was not a bad boy, but he still couldn't pass the level of kindness. Harry nodded, and the two agreed to apologize after the Halloween banquet. When they walked into the auditorium, colorful Halloween decorations instantly captured their eyes. 1,000 bats fluttered across the walls and ceiling. Above the dining table, there are also 1,000 hovering like low dark clouds. There are candles flickering in the hollow pumpkin belly, and delicious dishes appear on the golden plate on the table. John looked around, picked up a potato with the skin on and threw it on the back of Neville's head. "Neville, where's Hermione?" Neville felt a pain in his head, turned around and saw John. After a moment of stunned, he recalled, and said, "I heard from Parvati Patil that Hermione was crying in the women's bathroom and no one comforted her. Really, I'd better go find her, she shouldn't want to miss such a wonderful banquet." John felt a little uneasy in his heart. He remembered what the Bloody Barrow said, and he always felt that something would happen today, as if there was a plot here. Ding, find Hermione to solve the troll, get any point +1, blessing, troll killer, troll killer, increased damage to giant creatures. John was taken aback for a moment, and then his expression changed. He remembered that during the Halloween party, a giant monster seemed to have come out. He didn't think Hermione, a little wizard, could handle a 12-foot-tall troll with brute strength. Without much thought, John left the position directly. Dumbledore, who was tasting the sweet pumpkin cake, saw this scene, and the wise eyes under the half-moon lens seemed to be thinking about something. Not long after John left, Quirrell, with a large scarf on his head, ran in. His face was full of horror, and everyone stopped to look at him. Quirrell quickly ran to the chair next to Dumbledore, leaned on the chair with a crooked body, panting heavily with shock on his face. "The troll was in the basement, thought you should know." His words were intermittent, but revealed a piece of news. "There are trolls." After speaking, Quirrell fell headlong to the floor. The auditorium suddenly became chaotic, and Dumbledore presided over the scene. After quieting everyone down, he ordered the prefect to take the students back to the dormitory. The two of Harry were also among them, and Ron suspected that the troll was released by Peeves to make trouble, but Harry suddenly thought of Hermione. Too bad, Hermione doesn't know about the troll yet. Ron bit his lip, glanced at his prefect brother Percy, and said decisively, "Well, it's best not to let Percy see us." The two immediately lowered their bodies to reduce their sense of presence and left the team. Before heading to the women's bathroom, Harry spotted Professor Snape heading towards the 4th floor. This incident planted the seeds of doubt in his heart. On the 1st floor, the girls' bathroom, Hermione was crying in the cubicle. She was excellent in every way, but she was also a little girl. Being isolated by her classmates made her very sad. After crying for a while, she felt better. Sobbing, she came to the sink. After washing her face, her eyes were still a little red. "Well, John doesn't hate me." She comforted herself that at least she still had John as a friend. Looking at herself in the mirror, she was in a trance when there was a knock on the door. Hermione was startled, and there was a tremor in her voice. "Who is it?" "Hermione, are you okay?" "That it's John." He found the ladies' room, and was relieved to hear that Hermione was fine. He was about to ask Hermione to open the door when he caught a foul odor. The smell was comparable to the shitty eggs thrown by the Weasley twins, like stinky socks and unclean public toilets combined. John was almost fainted by the smoke. Looking back, a huge figure in the shadows grunted and approached with heavy feet on the ground. John grabbed the door that was about to open, and said solemnly to the inside, "Hermione, find a place to hide and don't open the door." His eyes were fixed on the troll, who was admittedly low in IQ, but couldn't deny the pressure of the 12-foot monster with its granite skin. It seems that the stunted head is like a rock with a cocoa bean on it, and the troll is still holding a thick wooden stick in his hand. John never wondered whether being hit by this thing hurt more than being hit by a bludger. Today was a tough fight. Taking a deep breath to calm himself down, it was the first time for John to face such a big guy, even bigger than Hagrid. The troll, who was a little confused, scratched his head in confusion when he saw John. "Don't think that this appearance is harmless, on the contrary, trolls are now extremely dangerous." John glanced at the troll that was gradually approaching, and moved nervously. "Come on, big man, maybe we should have a real bloody fight." He licked the corner of his mouth, and a fierce light appeared in John's eyes. With a flick of his left hand, a wand appeared in his hand, and he waved it at the troll. Reducto. The white light hit the giant monster, causing the giant monster to retreat in pain, and a fist-sized mark appeared on the skin of its body. This completely enraged the troll, who roared and swung his club at John. John rolled over to avoid it, and the wooden stick swept across the door of the women's room, smashing the door directly. "What?" Hermione screamed, and the troll was about to look over when it was hit by John's next spell. "Come here." With a yell, John ran back. The troll undoubtedly chased after him. John fought and retreated to lure the troll out of the range of the women's restroom. When Harry and Ron arrived at the women's room, they felt a chill when they saw the horrible toilet door. "Hermione!" They ran to the ladies' room and saw Hermione in the corner. "Looks like the troll didn't go in." The two had just breathed a sigh of relief when they heard Hermione's trembling and anxious voice. John led the troll away. "Let's go rescue him." Even Ron wouldn't care about Hermione at the moment. Gryffindor did not lack the courage to take risks for his friends, and they chased in the direction of the troll. John calculated the distance, and it was far enough away from the women's room now that it wouldn't affect Hermione. One leaned forward and rolled to avoid the whistling wooden club. John turned around and released the spell without the slightest hesitation. Wingardium Leviosa. The rubble of the wall shattered by the troll's stick floated up and smashed towards the troll under the guidance of the magic wand. The troll retreated in pain after being hit in the face. John took advantage of the victory and pursued, snatched the sword in the medieval armor and swung a silver light in mid-air, and slashed at the arm of the giant monster holding the wooden club with all his strength. The blood splattered out and set off the silver lightsaber dance under the moonlight as elegant as a waltz. This blow did not cut off the troll's arm and made it difficult to hold the wooden stick in pain. The pain stimulated the troll, making it even more manic. The troll's attack mode is as simple as its head, and it is easier to see through it after it becomes manic. Reducto. Repeating the same trick, John dodged the wooden club that was sweeping towards him, and hit the giant monster in the head with a blow that shattered his body, causing him to fall directly. The sword in his hand swung down, cutting off the troll's fingers so that he could not grasp the stick. Before the wooden stick hit the ground, John used the floating spell to hold the wooden stick in place and swung it with all his strength to hit the giant monster, knocking the giant monster into the air. Ended. John breathed a sigh of relief as the troll fell silent after colliding with the hapless medieval armor. Going forward, he wants to confirm that this thing is really dead. As soon as they approached, the three of Harry chased after them. After seeing the mess, the three little mouths opened wide enough to swallow a potato with skin on. "John, are you okay?" Harry let out a cry. John looked back, and the giant he thought was dead opened his eyes at this moment. The still intact left hand waved towards John, causing the three little ones to scream in fright. Instinctively, John swung his sword and collided with that hand. Ding! The sword flew out and plunged into the ceiling. John's right hand went numb and he lost his weapon, but don't forget, he's a wizard. The wand in the left hand pierced the troll's eye like a poisonous snake. Before the troll got up, holding the wand, John's face was full of coldness. "Sentenced the troll to death." Reducto. Even if it's a giant monster, it's unbearable to explode in the brain. That ridiculous head burst open like a boiled bean. The scene of extremely eating made the three little ones feel a little off. In fact, they've spit it out. Chapter 20 Christmas and Laoganma. You are listening at novelfull.audio. John watched the Weasley twins cast a spell on Snowball to chase Quirrell over the head, which made him secretly happy. Quirrell, who stopped pretending in front of John, couldn't show his face in front of other students. He could only continue to pretend to be a wry smile, as if he was cowardly and deceitful. In fact, he even thought about where the Weasley twins were buried. A bitter cold wind beat against the windows of the Hogwarts classrooms, and a raging fire burned in the auditorium, and the weather cooled down. John rubbed his palms, let out a breath of white air and landed on the glass. Seeing that Malfoy was going to fall in love with Harry for a while before the holiday, John complained. It is said that elementary school students will bully the person they like, and Malfoy has a crush on him. Heglar is in the hallway with the fir tree for Christmas. Ron was irritated first because Malfoy had said about his family. However, Snape seemed to have deliberately waited until this moment came out. Even with Hagrid begging for mercy, he did not hesitate to deduct 5 points from Gryffindor. Malfoy left triumphantly, deliberately squeezing fir tree needles everywhere. I'm going to teach him a lesson, just like John taught him. Ron gritted his teeth with hatred, wishing he could turn into John and punch Malfoy's little face. Harry nodded approvingly. Malfoy and Snape were the 2 people he hated the most at Hogwarts. Hagrid poured cold water on him. It's probably going to be difficult. John is the most capable wizard I've ever seen. Come with me to the auditorium and have a look, and John will go with us. Ron was in a bad mood for a moment. Hagrid invited them to watch the almost decorated auditorium, and John wanted to see how Christmas was in the wizarding world. The auditorium was beautifully decorated by Professors McGonagall and Flitwick. The walls were hung with holly and mistletoe festoons, and there were a dozen towering Christmas trees all around. Some trees had little shiny icicles hanging from them, while others had hundreds of candles flickering on them. Hagrid just delivered the last one, and it was over when the tree was decorated. Hagrid began to look forward to Christmas, and asked, "How many days until the holidays?" "Only 1 day. This reminds me, there is still half an hour. We can go to the library." Hermione did not forget Nicole Flamel, and invited John. "John, do you want to go with us?" "Well, being idle is also idle." John agreed after thinking about it and caring. Hagrid asked curiously, "It's going to be a holiday and you're still reading, you guys are working too hard." He is in a good mood because Christmas is coming, but Harry would soon make him feel bad, and Harry said happily, "We're not reviewing our lessons, we're trying to figure out who Nico Flamel is." "I told you to stop, what the big dog guards has nothing to do with you." Surprise turned to panic, and Hagrid persuaded the 3 little ones to stop this dangerous behavior. However, he also underestimated Gryffindor's spirit of death. The more this happened, the more motivated the 3 of them were. It's just that the name is too difficult to find. Sanxiaoji searched many books in the library but couldn't find it. For this reason, Hermione also made a list for easy search. When it was dinner time, the 4 of them left the library. Hermione refused to admit defeat and asked them to search during the holiday. And it was best to tell herself the result through the owl. On vacation, John ate the turkey, and had to say that. The chicken really only grew in size and nothing else. Slicing off a piece of meat from the turkey with a knife and fork, John had the urge to wrap it in bread and eat it. At the same time, his owl, Basil, had already flown away, probably to pick up the gift that his parents were going to send. The express delivery industry is really developed. If you can open an Owl Express company, you will definitely make a lot of money. John didn't know what his parents would give him, but he just hoped that old Mr. Wick didn't send a mouse or a black widow. During the holidays, John tried out wizard chess. The rules of this kind of chess are similar to those of chess, but it is more enjoyable to watch. Seeing his queen being smashed by Ron's horse, John just let out a heck. John, who originally suspected that he was bad at playing chess, was relieved after seeing Harry kneeling 18 times. It was snowing outside, and John didn't forget his training. After the magic power is upgraded, the power of the spell will also increase accordingly. This is easy to understand. Magic power is like a faucet, and the water in the faucet determines the size of the water. His magic power was not enough before, and the spells he released were not very powerful. The power of the spell after level 3 has increased a lot, and John can learn more attack spells, but the first thing he learned was a defensive spell. Armor Protection, Protego. This is a defensive enchantment against aggression that can be used to neutralize most attacks. It's a very useful spell. Coming out of the room of requirement, John returned to the bedroom. When I woke up the next morning, Basil by the bed had returned with a gift. He opened a present. It was from Mrs. Wick. They were a pair of warm gloves, knitted by Mrs. Wick herself. The second one is Papa Watson Wick, presented in a 4-sided cube. Shaking it, I figured it wouldn't fit a mouse in it. Opening the gift, John saw a bottle of hot sauce inside. When he didn't know why, he saw the name of this hot sauce. Old Godmother. Cold knowledge. Laoganma was established in 1984. Along with the present came a letter from Old Wick. After opening it, the father knew that his son liked food from that mysterious eastern country, so he asked a lot of connections, and finally got a bottle of Laoganma. John couldn't wait to open Laoganma, picked up a little bit with a fork and put it in his mouth. The familiar flavor bloomed on the tip of his tongue after 11 years. And John almost burst into tears at that time. Even the gifts from Hagrid and Hermione became unimportant. In the Harry looked curiously at the strange bottle in John's hand, and asked aloud, "What is this? It smells strange." "This is chili sauce, you can try it." "John can dip everything with a spoonful of Laoganma." Ron changed into a dark purple hand-knitted sweater, and curiously tried Laoganma. The weird taste that bloomed from his taste buds contained the heritage of the ancient Oriental country. "The taste is very strange, some spicy, and some strange." Having said that, Ron still tried to dip the chicken legs like John did. "The moment you eat it seems to open the door to a new world." Seeing Ron like this, Harry also tried curiously. Immediately, like Ron, he couldn't stop the weird taste. Ron sent John some fudge too, which was delicious and very sweet. John opened the chocolate frog that Hermione sent, and the chocolate frog in it almost jumped away. The twins were wearing the same hand-knitted sweaters as Ron, only they were blue and had different letters on them. When it came to the Christmas banquet, John's old godmother managed to attract more people's attention. Wearing a flower-embellished bonnet on his head, Dumbledore tasted it all, but judging from his expression, he should be disappointed that this thing is not sweet. After the Christmas banquet, both the professor and the students were very happy. In the room of requirement, John had a rare change of place to rest. Taking out the chocolate frog Hermione gave, John grabbed the frog and took a bite. A wizard card falls out of the box. Above is Dumbledore. John didn't take it seriously at first, so he glanced at it casually, and his eyes stayed on the card. Albus Dumbledore, current headmaster of Hogwarts, recognized as the greatest wizard of our time. Dumbledore's well-known contributions include defeating Darth Vader Grindelwald in 1945, discover 12 uses for dragon's blood. Fruitful in alchemy with partner Nicole Flamel. Professor Dumbledore likes chamber music and 10-pin bowls. Staring blankly at the card, John's eyes fell on the name of Nicole Flamel. Alchemy. Rubbing his chin, John remembered that he had seen something very heaven-defying in the records of alchemy. It's called the Philosopher's Stone.